Nervous, are you? No need to be. We'll do all the work now. We have the experience. Now watch.
Yeah, this isn't a cozy game, that's for sure. Blood West is a tactical, first-person shooter set in the supernatural version of the Wild Wild West. You play as a cowboy who was resurrected by Native American magic, with the purpose of cleansing the land of the curse that has recently spread, causing the recently deceased to rise from the grave. In this game, you will use various weapons to defend yourself, explore large maps, and complete various missions. But before we get too far into that, let's talk about... So normally, I have more information regarding development. However, no matter where I look, I can't seem to find any information other than the game was released for early access on February 10th, 2022, and was developed by Hyperstrange and published by New Blood Interactive. I'm assuming that since this game was not the studio's first game, the novelty of talking about development process has long passed. With that being said, what I can say is that this game is still currently getting updates, and had a new DLC announced this last September. I did also want to mention that the game's main protagonist is voiced by Steven Russell. Now, if that name doesn't ring any bells, then I'm sure that some of his other characters might. Just to name a few, he was the voice of Nick Valentine, Codsworth, and Mr. Hansy from Fallout 4. He was also the voice from Mercer Frey, Calvis Vile, and also Barbas from Skyrim. Unfortunately, that's all the information I could find regarding the development and actors of this game, so I suppose it's time to move on to the... I think this game is best described as a first-person immersive sim with stealth heavily being recommended. Now, that isn't to say you don't have other options if you don't want to take it slow and methodical. However, it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world. Pretty much anything other than a headshot deals next to no damage, while most enemy hits deal about a quarter or more of your health along with applying some form of negative effect, most likely being bleeding. One thing I can say though is that you do have a lot of options on how you can approach a situation. Let's take the fort from the first map for an example. The main goal of this location is to get into the main building in the middle, make it to this room, and acquire this golden skull. How you get there is completely up to you though. Do you go in through the front door, guns blazing? Or how about you take the side door and get all the enemies in a choke point on the bridge? Or maybe you want to take an alternate route and enter from below, through the chasm, making your way past the spirits and through the underground tunnels, up through one of the guard towers. Or maybe you want to enter through the back, going past the Lonely Watchtower through the tunnels, past all the Wendigos. All of these are viable options, aside from maybe the side passage, but that's just because there are like 10 dudes there, and that sounds like way too many in my opinion, but that's not the point I'm trying to make here. The point is, almost every situation has a ton of options on how you take care of it. This is one of the best things about the game in my opinion. Aside from the exploration options, there are a good amount of weapons also. Bows, revolvers, lever action rifles, shotguns, knives, tomahawks, axes, swords, and a lot more are at your disposal. This also includes special versions of these weapons too, like a bow that doesn't require arrows, but instead takes 3 health for every arrow and your arrows aren't affected by gravity anymore. Or how about a lever action rifle that reduces the amount of physical damage you take and deals extra damage if you're drunk. For every regular weapon, there's usually about 2 to 5 special versions. And that isn't even getting into the artifacts or the items that you get either. Now, like I said earlier, this game very much pushes you towards a stealth build, and if you aren't running stealth, you better be able to land headshots. Because of this, most of the items that buff you have this mentality in mind. Let's take 2 of the builds I personally used for example. One being a stealth build using the bow that I mentioned earlier, along with a knife that not only helps you stealth better, but also heals you for 5 HP per surprise attack. And then, paired with artifacts that do things like make your sneaking even better and increase your arrow damage, and now you have a good stealth archer build. Then we have the loud and proud headshot build, with a double barrel shotgun that heals 5 HP per headshot, and a pistol that pays $5 per headshot also. It also gets rid of curses and flaws if you can get multiple, takeouts we'll say, in a row, then paired with a watch that slows down time when aimed down the sights, a hat that when using pistols heals 5 HP per headshot, helps with aiming, increases range and damage, and then finally a glove that increases reload speed, and you're pretty well set. There are a lot of other builds, but that might possibly be getting into spoiler territory. What I will say is that the game very much rewards exploration, and even encourages it by the missions sending you to every corner of the map. Speaking of, there are 3 distinct maps, each of which are huge and vastly different. Those being the classic desert in the middle of nowhere, a thick dense swamp teeming with gators, and finally a forested valley surrounded by mountains. Each location has its own hazards and new enemies, and let me tell you, those enemies have some seriously cool designs. Some of my personal favorite were the animated dead and the ghost slingers. It was also very very rewarding to run into new creatures, not knowing how they work, and test out new ideas just to find they have some weakness that's easily exploitable, or something to watch out for. For example, the Wendigos I mentioned earlier. They're huge and terrifying, until you realize they're completely blind. However, if you destroy the skull in their chest, they go completely crazy and rush you. If you're having problems with a certain creature, there's also notes left around the world that try and give you hints on how to best deal with each creature. Truth be told, some are better than others, but it's the thought that counts. But anyways, before I end up saying too much and possibly spoiling some of the better parts of the game, I think I should move on to... So, I'm gonna be completely honest here. The story in this game is, lacking, to put it nicely. If you're loading this game up in the hopes of getting a deep, rewarding story with multiple endings and heart-wrenching backstories and engaging NPCs, you're gonna be very disappointed. The story very much takes a backseat compared to everything else in the game. Truth be told, I wasn't overly upset by this because I wasn't really going into it looking for a crazy story. Honestly, me being told, hey, you're a gunslinger who was resurrected by Native American spirits tasked with ridding the land of a curse, I was good to go. And honestly, I get the vibe that that was the intent of this game. Now, by no means does that mean that the voice actors phoned it in because of this. Actually, it was quite the opposite. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the voice actors is well known, and the other voice actors did a great job also. I mean, just listen to a few of these lines, for example.
I walk the earth once more.
At first, we all heard him coughing up his lungs out there, but then it all went quiet. And he didn't come back. And we started looking for him. He was nowhere to be seen.
I will rid this land of you. Break the beak, break the bones.
Now, that's good stuff right there. Unfortunately, you don't get to hear the music all that often. I believe this is because the game wanted to be quiet so that it would be easier to hear things going on around you, like footsteps and just general sounds from the creatures walking around. And honestly, it really helped with the immersion part of the game. Now, I wish that there were more things to help with the immersion, like maybe an interactable or destructible environment, but as far as the sound design is concerned, the devs did a really good job in my opinion. So I guess that leaves us with the final question of, what did I think of the game and would I recommend buying it? I think the game had some seriously high highs and some seriously low lows. Playing a sneaky gunslinger in an apocalyptic version of the Wild West is such a cool concept, and for the most part, that's really all I needed to have fun with this game. I just wish that there was a few changes. Like, I wish the soundtrack was more prominent, because like I said, it was so good, but it was so scarce. I also wish the gameplay also didn't demand that you fall into one of two categories. That isn't to say I didn't get a chance to try out most of the weapons or artifacts, I just found that for about 90% of my playthrough, I ended up with a stealth build. And when I didn't, I found myself, forcibly being fast traveled back to the nearest safe zone. I also didn't mention the crazy difficulty spike when in Act 3. To a point, I stopped exploring and just bum rushed whatever objective I had at the time, because the enemies either hit too hard or were too tightly packed for me to even stand a chance. And I was more or less forced into running a specific artifact that turned me invisible. And I wasn't even playing on the hardest difficulty, I was only playing on normal. I think the game could deal with a bit of rebalancing to allow for players to better explore some of the other build options provided. Now, with that being said, by no means am I saying I didn't actually enjoy this game. Actually, it was quite the opposite. I had a lot of fun, and I understand why the game is listed with the very positive reviews on Steam. Now, would I recommend buying it? I'd say if you're into stealth games, for sure, this game is going to be right up your alley. I just wouldn't go into this expecting it to play like Doom or some other boomer shooter. If you aren't into the whole stealth gameplay or taking your time and testing out new ideas, I would say that this game isn't for you. This game can be found on Epic, Steam, GOG, PlayStation, and Xbox for $25. Anyways guys, as always, I've been Dingus, you've been you, this has been Blood West, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yes, this item will suffice. Go on, there's more work to be done.